Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. Oh man, I thought for sure today was going to be the day we saw 5,000 Bitcoin. So you guys are just going to have to wait a little longer. Put the champagne bottles away. Put the memes down. No rocket ships. No Lamborghinis. No 5,000 Bitcoin cake. We're going to have to wait on this one. We were within few bucks today. So here's the chart of Bitcoin, the daily chart of Bitcoin, looking back to September basically. So the old high was, depending on the exchange you look, it was 49.70, 49.80, give or take, right in that March. So this is Bitfinex, and you can see here, and so the red line over here is essentially that point, that price point. And so we were marching up. We've been in this nice steady uptrend, and no doubt in the near term Bitcoin was becoming very overextended. So I was a little skeptical when I saw the attempted breakout today, because I was thinking this is actually not very bullish because we're already a little extended, and I was hoping we would see a little bit more of a pause slash pullback, set up this very nice big base that in my opinion would serve as a nice launching pad for a push well beyond 5K. So let's zoom in a little bit here at the 4-hour chart here. So coming into today, we had this big pop yesterday that just blew right past that $4,600 mark into the 4,800, and then you can see these long wicks on the candles. That's all sellers, right? There was a lot of sellers showing up. Anytime it would try to rally past 4,800 much, boom, sellers. And going into this morning, I saw this getting really tight, and I thought we're going to know sure enough, soon enough, if this is going to move up one way or the other. On the hourly chart, again, the same picture here. This was before the move, and you can see we were getting real close, and sure enough, we started to see this big volume coming in to the upside, but hit that wall right above $4,900. Sellers showed up there, and it tried a few times before it just kind of really started to turn around here in the last couple of hours. And so watching this here real time, we're starting to sell off a little bit. Support is holding though on the daily chart right now, or excuse me, the 4-hour chart. You can see that 10 EMA holding at this time. Will it hold? Who knows? This has been support the last day or so, so it could. Let's look at the here, this going into this morning, right? RSI was already at 80. So I was thinking this is already extended. How much higher can it go? It's pulling in a little bit. This is actually very healthy. I'm hoping that we just pause and maybe even correct a little more, in my opinion, because I'd like to see the daily chart kind of reset a little bit more, right? So we're seeing this big chart pattern starting to form here, and what I would like to see is this big base put in where it starts to form the right side of this base and then puts in a little bit of a handle or a little bit of a consolidation here, and then that would set up a very nice base from which we could launch. Will we pause for a couple of days or see a pullback? We're going to find out here soon enough, but I posted a chart here yesterday for those of you guys that follow me on Twitter, and it's just some thoughts, right? So this was the last little base we saw, and it was a similar situation, not exact, but very similar in that we had this big rally. This was the pre-$3,000 mark, and we paused right before 3,000, and that started the big correction in June, July, bottoming around 1,800. And then this one, we had a pretty sharp rally up to the upside, and then it was just flop and chop right up to the fork, and Bitcoin didn't actually break out until after August 1st. But then once we broke out, we went right past that $3,000 mark to 3,200, and then from there it was off to the races. And you can see zooming out, right, that let me move this here, but zooming out, you can see that this was just a very nice big base that it's set up here, right, with the top of the base being right around that $3,000 mark, and it nice tightened up here towards the right hand side of it. And that's what I'm hoping we see again. I'm hoping that we see this nice big base forming and then some tightening action going into the next week or two, and we'll see what happens at that point. But it could set up a potential launch that'll take us over that proverbial $5,000 mark that we've all been waiting for here. So we could see it move out from there and then maybe have another little leg up at that point. So very interesting to see that. I'm liking the action here so far, but we're going to see how deep it goes. So that's the bull case. The bear case is if we see a big double top form, and in that sense that we had this high, we had the big sharp pullback, we have the rally, and we start to get this sharp pullback. I'm not in that camp, but you got to think about that. That's always a possibility. And if we do see that big double top forming, that's going to be a huge top in Bitcoin, a very long-term top that will be hard to overcome if the price pulls back down below 4,000 into the high threes there. So I don't expect that to happen. We'll see. There's a lot of news. Now Russia is saying, oh, we're going to ban Bitcoin and exchanges, and they're on one side and then they're on the other, and it's just back and forth. And it's always interesting to see what happens with the news. And let's see if China reverses course here. Maybe that launches it. But for now, we've got to watch Bitcoin, see what is going to happen. Near-term support. Let's see how far back this could go if it doesn't hold here. This $4,600 mark is going to be really the area that I'm watching, because that was key resistance to get over back in here. 46 is right here, 46, 47. I think if we pull back, we'll go in a little bit further than that, in my opinion. But 4,400 should be a solid floor. And ideally, that would be the nice little handle that would put in here on the longer term chart. So if we saw a pullback down to that $4,400 range, 4,500, that'd be very healthy. From the top right now, that's only 10-11% from the top. So I know that sounds painful, but in the big scheme of things, very healthy pullback, not a really big deal in the big scope of things. The interesting thing is going to be, what do the altcoins do? They're already down and out and beat up. If Bitcoin pulls back, are they going to pull back further? Or maybe we start to see a reversal in the trend and they start to hold their ground a little bit versus Bitcoin. I'm thinking we're going to see the latter. There's already a lot of oversoldness in the altcoins. Some of them are starting to reverse trend here, but it's very selective still. And I'm starting to find a little bit of a bottom being put in some of those altcoins. So I'm not sure how much further they got, but it's still very much individual picks. It's not across the board at this point. There's still some very bearish charts in the altcoins. Let's take a look at a couple of those here real quick. I mean, if you look at, let's see, Ethereum, it's kind of trending up, hitting this wedge, getting real tight here. It's going to be bouncing around between this 290 mark and 310 or so. So it's going to be interesting to see what that does, but certainly has been underperforming Bitcoin the last couple of days. I keep thinking it's going to start outperforming here soon, but we're going to have to wait and see what this one does. Litecoin, definitely weaker of the bunch still and trending lower. Just can't seem to get a bid. On the Bitcoin Litecoin chart, I am not liking the way it looks longer term. I'm really hoping that it holds support here. So you can see, if we look at this chart, this is Bitcoin versus Litecoin here. And this is the longer daily chart. And most of you guys can already spot what I'm seeing here, but a massive potential head and shoulder pattern forming on the Litecoin Bitcoin chart. And we are essentially right at the neckline of that pattern. And so you don't want to see a break below that 0.01 level. That's been a key level that it conquered and has held it multiple times. If that 0.01 level goes, that could be a big sell-off for Litecoin. You could see another, 20% drop or more on that. And right now it's $50. So if that breaks, we could be back into the $30 range in Litecoin. So if you're holding Litecoin, just be aware of that pattern forming, be cautious, and if you're looking to buy it, hey, this might offer up a nice opportunity. From a technical level, it's a little oversold, but definitely not at the lows that it could ultimately go to. So it's in the cards, in my opinion. Some other charts here. Let's look at Ripple. I was talking Ripple in my last video, and here's the breakout point of Ripple. Here we go. So that blue line is a breakout point of Ripple, and you can see yesterday during the big sell-off, that was a big washout, but did find support, bouncing right back above. Today we're seeing a little bit of a bounce. Not a lot of follow-through yet, but it's still holding that breakout point. If we look at Ripple versus the dollar, you can see it here a lot more clearly. This was the initial early setup, then the big breakout above 24 cents, pulled right back to that 10 EMA on the daily chart, and so far it's holding above. So I know I had that big washout yesterday, but as long as it continues to hold this, that breakout is holding at this point. So if you're still holding it, I probably wouldn't give it much more below this 23-cent mark or so. If it gets under that, that's going to be a failed breakout for now, and we'll have to just give it some more time. That's going to be it for now, guys. A lot of action out there. The alts are really just all over the place. I did want to share one thought on what potentially could happen. Everyone is thinking, I'm going to hold Bitcoin going into this fork, get the free Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Gold, just like I did Bitcoin Cash, and then sell it as soon as I get it. But you always have to consider, nobody knows what that's going to be worth when it's issued and when it starts trading. And it might not be worth holding Bitcoin for that if the altcoins start to reverse course here. And just look at the scenario of, okay, let's say Bitcoin drops 10%, but the altcoins decide to hold or outperform Bitcoin by 10%. And then after the fork, everybody decides to start coming back in. My guess is the altcoins are going to charge out of the gate ahead of that fork in anticipation of others moving out of Bitcoin and back into. So those are my thoughts. I'm thinking we see the alts bottom out before the fork and then go from there. So just a couple of scenarios I'm thinking through, and I'm going to be looking for some of those good entries, a couple of the good names. It's definitely not across the board at this point, so you're going to have to definitely be choosy and pick some of the stronger names at this point. But those are my thoughts going into the fork. If everyone's going one direction, you got to start looking at the other direction and think about the alternative, contrarian possibilities. So hope this video helps, guys. Appreciate you hanging with me. Until next time, take care.